Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Shama Ashram in Cali, Colombia, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show, and welcome to Monday. It's Makeover Monday, everybody. Makeover Monday is a great way to check in with how you're doing this week. It's your New Year's resolution every Monday. If you sort of feel like you dropped the ball last week, it was Thursday. Hey, it's Monday. It's a whole new chance to turn over a new leaf. We had it yesterday was Ekadasi. It's a special day in Bhakti where it's the 11th day of the waxing or the waning moon. Was the moon waxing yesterday or waning? Waxing. It was waxing. You guys, New Yorkers, don't even look at the moon. Does the moon even shine over New York City?
The moon does. You know, I always thought the stars didn't, but like lately I've been seeing the stars.
Well, on those days we make special, sometimes we make a special commitment to be extra devotional on those days, and it sort of trampolines our devotional spirit. So Mallory had a good one. Mallory walked around with a little card that said, "I'm not speaking to anybody. I'm just chanting today." So that was her little thing yesterday. So you can make a little vow this week. What do you want to do to upgrade your life and your spiritual life? Sometimes you want to upgrade your health because our health it'll affect our spiritual life for sure. It can. Upgrade your mind, what you put in your mind. We don't like putting a lot of garbage in the mind. So it's Monday. We can make that little commitment and then check in with ourselves. We have on our Discord thread, we have a little Makeover Monday group that always post what they're going to do this week. Thank you. And, Maya's a cheater. Maya's always trying to cheat you out of Krishna. So you got to stop. You got to cheat Maya. Don't let Maya cheat you. Maya's always saying, hit the snooze button. Who cares? What's the big deal? You got to cheat Maya. There is no, not only am I not going to hit snooze, I'm going to wake up 5 minutes early, Maya. That's what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think about that, Kaustubha? You got to go in with that type of attitude on a Monday morning.
Yeah, well, you had a little Monday morning nugget for us, didn't you?
Want a nug? Here's a nug for you. Stole this from Jay Shetty. I'm going to call Jay Shetty. We got to get him on the show.
All right.
Feed your focus, starve your distractions. That's the way we say in Wisdom of the Sages, cheat Maya. You got to feed your focus and starve your distractions. Spiritual life is tricky. It's like a game of chutes and ladders. Mara, that's our old analogy we used to use. If you remember that game, chutes and ladders, you move your piece, you climb up, and then you land on a ladder and you get to climb, you accelerate, you climb up to the next tier, right? So there's so many different ways we climb ladders in spiritual life. One way is you get an attitude of you want to give service instead of taking service. It's very natural to want to take service. Hey, take this for me. Can you get this for me? Can you get this for me? Especially if you've been around for a while and then people want to serve you. And so therefore you're like, yeah, you can serve me for your benefit. You can serve me. And so But the great souls are always trying to render service. How can I render some service? That's the ladder that can make us accelerate. And then of course there's these chutes. The chutes are a slide. You land on that spot, you go, ah, and that's the offenses we make, the cruel things we harbor in the mind, the resentment, finding fault with people just for the fun of it sometimes, and sometimes just because you're trying to help them or something, or you're trying to discern, and so you share with why this person's off. And you got to be very, very careful that thing can, like, that's the first domino that can knock down all the wonderful things you've done in your spiritual life. It can destroy them all. It's such a powerful offense. So that's our chutes and ladders. You got to be careful. Maya, when you start getting good at bhakti, Maya is like keeping a keen eye on you. And so you go along on this very blissful state, and then all of a sudden you will get such a roadblock where you're like, now what am I supposed to do? And I find like that's, it's like stratega when everything's like game analogy, Yeah. That's what happens when you have kids. It all becomes a game. You're picking off pieces. Ever play stratega, Kaustubha? And then you just hit it's a good game. It's actually a good game. And then you hit a bomb, and it just like ruins everything. So we gotta be careful. You get these big like Himalayan peaks you gotta climb, and it just becomes like exhausting. It can wreck your spiritual life. Or you can just say, you know what? This is Krishna's mercy, and I'm going to. I think we've all had a lot of those this year, or last year, the COVID year. We just ran into walls, and we have to really think, how can I make this an asset in my life instead of a deficit in my life? It's a big part of our work. Spiritual life is not just like, riding unicorns and peacocks around, although it's partly that as well. Once you get that sweet taste, then you get like a real wrench thrown in the mix. And then Krishna sees, okay, let's see my devotee go very, very deep. You riding peacocks today, Mara?
Nope,
like,
it's too cold for peacocks up here.
Yeah, so you got to deal with that. Yeah, dealing with, yeah. All right, so what do you say, Kaustubha? We dive into this beautiful Bhagavatam.
All right.
Now, let's start off with our secret mantras, okay? If you're in the live group here, we got a nice little live group of our retreaties. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before we start in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshvabhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavate uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmitatam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to my spiritual masters, who have opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance, with the ointment of knowledge. All right, reading from the Canto 3. Canto 3, Chapter 1, text.
No, Chapter 2. Starting a chapter.
Oh, Chapter
today.
2. Duh.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
2.
yesterday I experienced a Krishna miracle.
You're like the doubter of Krishna miracles.
Well, that's why when I bring one out, it's not just like it's the real thing.
Yeah. Okay. Now I want to hear it, because you raise the bar. It's got to be sort of like, it's got to be like the resurrection of Christ for it to be a Krishna miracle.
Well,
what happened yesterday?
Mathematically, it's at least 1 in 18,000, and I would say it's even more than that. Okay.
What, your particular miracle or any miracle?
Yes.
Because some people like to say the sun is rising today. That's a miracle. And that sort of is a
Yes.
miracle. In a random
not talking
universe,
about
the
that
sun
kind of
doesn't
miracle.
rise.
But no, it was
You're
this.
talking like you're thinking about your mom and your mom called.
No. I was in a meeting yesterday, and Bhakti Center had
Yeah.
a board meeting, which I was participating in, and Vaisheshika Prabhu is one of the Bhakti Center board members, and
Okay.
before and after the meetings, he always reads a few verses, okay,
Yeah.
and at the end of yesterday's meeting, he said, "Let me just read a few verses from Bhagavatam."
Yeah.
He read, and I should preface this by saying, yesterday I just doing a little preparation. I decided, hey, let's read the first. We were at this verse, chapter 2,
Yeah.
text 1. I said, let's read 1 through 6. He to myself, in my preparation. In this meeting, he said, let me read some verses from Bhagavatam. He read those exact 6 verses that we're going to read today. That's at least one
Pretty
in
much a
18,000.
Krishna miracle.
Right?
I mean,
Yeah,
that's sort of one of. Oh yeah, I get your 1 in 18,000. What do you
It's
think,
even
Mary?
more
Is that a
than that
Krishna
because
miracle?
he could have read from another book. He could have not read. He could have read the first
Yeah.
one, but not the 6. He read those exact 6 verses.
I think it
I'm gonna
counts as
call
a
that a
Krishna
Krishna-
miracle.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
call that a Krishna miracle. I'm gonna call that a
Okay.
Krishna miracle. We
Okay.
had a
So
bunch of
let's.
Krishna miracles yesterday, didn't we? Didn't we say? Okay, forget it. Okay,
So let's
I'm
read.
gonna call it a Krishna miracle, Kaustubha.
All right.
I think we should have a whole show of people sending in their Krishna miracles and I read through them.
They just
I
need to be
personally think
vetted.
that's.
That's all.
We'll vet them. We'll vet them.
We'll vet him
We'll-
live on the show. Like we'll yeah,
give it
not a Krishna
we'll
miracle.
give it the Gong show.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's not a miracle. Well, they say to be a Christian saint, you have to perform 2 miracles. Do you know that?
Yeah, I've heard something like that.
To get, because in the Catholic Church, you get entered into sainthood, but you have to perform 2 miracles.
Mhm.
So we would have to see, Kaustubha, if that would qualify with the Pope as a Krishna miracle.
All right.
All right. Remembrance of Lord Krishna. So why don't we read the first 6? We'll go back and forth. What do you say
All
about
right.
that?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Want to take number
Sri
1?
Sukadeva Goswami said, text 1. So Sukadeva Goswami speaking, when the great devotee Uddhava was asked by Vidura to speak on the messages of the dearest Lord Krishna, Uddhava was unable to answer immediately due to excessive anxiety at the remembrance of the Lord.
He was one who, even in his childhood, at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it.
Uddhava thus served the Lord continually from childhood, and in his old age, the attitude of service never slackened. As soon as he was asked about the message of the Lord, he at once remembered all about him.
For a moment, he remained dead silent, and his body did not move. He became absorbed in the nectar of remembering the Lord's lotus feet in devotional ecstasy, and he appeared to be going increasingly deeper into that ecstasy.
It was so observed by Vidura that Uddhava had all the transcendental bodily changes due to total ecstasy. And he was trying to wipe away tears of separation from his eyes. Thus, Vidura could understand that Uddhava had completely assimilated extensive love for the Lord.
The great devotee Uddhava soon came back from the abode of the Lord to the human plane, and wiping his eyes, he awakened his reminiscence of the past and spoke to Vidura in a pleasing mood. Okay.
So basically, this is something that your body exhibits that it's safe to say none of us have ever exhibited this, right? This is not just sort of like I've had my, I get cold, my hair stands on end, or something. We weep out of like love sometimes, but this is something that is almost like you have to get there in order to experience these things in the right way, and we haven't like got that. It's just almost like a century plant, like an agave. Every 100 years they sprout. So it might be beautiful, it might be nice, it might be you might be able to use the plant for certain things, but it's at that 100th year it shoots up 100-foot stalk. And that's the only time. So we might experience high level, spiritual experience, but we've never hit this level. It's a whole new level of bodily manifestations.
Yeah,
Is that safe to say?
Well, yeah. Well, a book like the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami, which was kind of summarized by Srila Prabhupada as the Nectar of Devotion, discusses these things. These are called sattvika-bhavas. It means
Sattvika-bhavas.
Sattvika-bhavas. It means
Write that on the board, Mara, please.
Sattvika-bhava. It means an unpremeditated, involuntary expression that's arising directly from the spiritually surcharged consciousness. All right, it's not now. In other words, Uddhava was asked by Vidura, "Tell me about Krishna." And just hearing the name and thinking about Krishna sent Uddhava into a very deep emotional state that was exhibited physically in his body without his trying. It just spontaneously happened. Sattvika-bhava means like that. Now, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu... And
I've got a challenge for you.
Challenge?
Well, here's my challenge. You know how we talk about the 6 potent items of bhakti?
5. Right?
Hearing the Bhagavatam, hearing Kirtan. 5 potent items of bhakti. 5 hearing the Bhagavatam, with association with devotees, seeing the deity, going to the holy place, and where a neophyte can experience transcendental glimpse, right? So I've had people in a yoga class, and we start doing kirtan, and and not being pretentious, they just start crying.
Okay.
Could that be considered something like that?
Well, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it goes into detail in all of this kind of thing. It answers your challenge. And there's a term, I forget the Sanskrit, but it's like shadow attachment. It says that in the right association, one might feel some of these symptoms, although the person hasn't achieved this stage of bhava or prema. You see, like Uddhava's, he's on the stage of prema. And we can discuss that today, the 9 different stages of bhakti, how it goes deeper and deeper. And on those, it's said that on the level of bhava, now there's 9 stages that one goes through, from faith to pure love of God. And the second to last one is called bhava, right? And that's it's described. I should find that verse. Did I note it down somewhere? But it says that the Lord's mercy it kind of like shines on one like a ray of light, and that ray of light, it softens the heart, right? The heart becomes very, 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 very soft, and then one begins to experience certain very deeply profound devotional sentiments. Then naturally these kind of bhavas, sattvika-bhava, involuntary physical symptoms will show. Now, someone may show those symptoms without being on that stage. If they're in the right association, they might feel that. It's not exactly, it's nice, it's beautiful, but it's not what Uddhava was experiencing. That answer your question? Yeah. Here we're hearing. It's interesting because it said in the translation, it said for a moment he remained dead silent. But if you look at the Sanskrit, the word uses a muhurtam. For a muhurta, he stayed silent. Do you know how long a muhurta is?
That is sort of like first it's a Vedic measurement of time, muhurta. And there's certain muhurtas throughout the day. It's interesting how we calculate time, because we must calculate even the time of the day, like a minute to an hour, etc. I wonder if that's coming from the solar calendar, because the calculation of time in the Vedic calendar is through muhurtas.
Well, and
titis.
Like, for instance, the Brahma muhurta, which we're in right now, right, is that muhurta just before the sun rises.
what is it, 58 minutes or something on
48 minutes, yeah. 48 minutes.
48 minutes.
So
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so this says that Uddhava, it says for a muhurta, he remained dead silent and his body did not move. Right? So, I mean, this wasn't ordinary, like if I said, hey, Raghunath, tell me about Krishna today. I want to hear one of your sweet baby. Tell me about Krishna. And then you just, like, for 48 minutes, you didn't say a thing. You're just, like, stunned. That's what happened, but Vidura is like, he understands this so well. He's like just patiently waiting for him to come out of it. But let's read the commentary to text 6.
All right. Purports. When Uddhava was fully absorbed in the transcendental ecstasy of love of God, he actually forgot all about the external world. Wow. The pure devotee lives constantly in the abode of the Supreme, even in the present body, which apparently belongs to this world. The pure devotee is not exactly on the bodily plane, since he is absorbed in the transcendental thought of the Supreme. When Uddhava wanted to speak to Vidura...
let's just pause for a second there.
Sure.
But that's an interesting idea, right? It's saying that there are people walking around this world that aren't in this world exactly. When Vidura asked Uddhava, tell me about Krishna, his consciousness was in a completely different world. And it took 48 minutes for him to come back, But I think we can think of that like, again, what Prabhupada said is that the pure devotee, the one whose consciousness has developed pure love of God, right? Who's seen truth, who understands everything, who's seen God everywhere, who's feeling God in the heart, seen God in the heart of every other living being, not confused by the constantly changing material world. That devotee lives constantly in the abode of the Supreme Lord, even in the present body, even when they're in this world, they're not exactly in this world, which apparently, even within this present body, which apparently belongs to this world. The pure devotee is not exactly on the bodily plane, since they are absorbed in the transcendental thought of the Supreme. So it's kind of like, say Raghunath went to visit a prison, right? And you're going to do some kirtan for the prisoners or something like that. Devotees do that sometimes, right? And
I've never done it.
And you were walking through the prison. You're in the prison, but you're not a prisoner. The kind of the anxiety.
Good analogy.
Yeah, right. It's good, right? Like the prisoners generally, like they're feeling some sense of suffering, and they feel that their freedom has been limited, and they have different anxieties and so on based on being a prisoner. You're in the exact same prison, but you have none of that. You're free of all that. You have the consciousness of a free person, even though you're in the prison. And so this is saying that a devotee like Uddhava, even he's in this world, he's not in this world. He's free of the anxieties of this world. His consciousness is absorbed in the same way as that of one in the spiritual realm, of the one situated in truth and divine love.
You know what analogy I've been using lately for that one, Kaustubha?
I don't.
Mother cow. Mother cow. She's very...
Okay.
Yeah, mother cow is regularly eating the grass. I've been using this on Sweet Baby Krishna. Okay. Mother cow is regularly eating the grass, but she's always thinking of the calf. Even though she's all day, she's eating the grass. Sometimes she doesn't appear to even look up sometimes, but she's always thinking of that calf. She's never the calf is always nearby, and it's always on her mind. So in the same way, so many people I'm looking at right now on the Zoom board, they're working their jobs. They're out there in the material world, but their mind is absorbed in Krishna. It's always in the forefront of their mind, no matter what they're doing.
Okay, mother cow. How do you know what the cow's thinking about?
You got to get in the mind of a cow. You got to start thinking like a cow.
How do you do that? You spend time with her. Did you go see the cows just across the street from the Sham Ashram?
I haven't yet.
There's a little goshala
I've been
over
very,
there.
very I've been very, very quarantining myself, really. We're staying in a pod of our group here.
Oh, yeah. Okay, but this is like
really
outdoors and it's like a big open farm. You just wander over there. Have Shama Sundari take you over there. It's like they got these nice Colombian, really sweet Colombian cowherd men with like, they got those hats on and everything. They're really sweet. Check out the cows.
Yeah, it's all sweet until they butcher them. Yeah.
No, these guys aren't like that, I don't think. Especially on that farm,
Actually,
that other
you're
farm.
right.
They
It's
care
the-
for those
I
cows.
think it's the ahimsa cow guy right there. I
Yeah.
think there's an ahimsa cow guy right there.
There's an ahimsa cow. This is everyone. I'm telling you, all you people there in Colombia right now, make sure Sham Sundari takes you to this farm. It's the most beautiful farm. It's maybe 15 minutes from there or something like that. And the man there, he's got horses and cows, maybe some other animals too. And he says he told his children, don't think you're gonna make money off this land. Like, do something else with it. I want it to be like this. I want people to see the pure, natural, environment. And every animal that comes there,
It's a very developing city.
yeah, that's right. And every animal that comes, he tells the animal, you can live here peacefully for your whole life. We're gonna care for you here, like that. He doesn't hurt them. And you can get a
What does
himsa
the animal
milk.
say?
It says something like that. And you go in there, there's an old lady and she's got like this huge vat of milk and she's making dulce de leche right there, and you can get some of that.
Dulce de leche. That's like dulce de leche is the same as sort of burfi
Yeah, more or
in
less.
India, right?
Caramel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
similar.
condensed milk caramel.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's the difference. Maybe the analogy isn't perfect
Okay.
because working in the world, actually maybe it's not. Vidura, I guess, is as this highest platform. He's not even in the body anymore. Vidura's not working.
He
in the
was
world.
stunned.
He's
Yeah,
like completely out of his body. He was
He said
actually
he-
stunned. He couldn't move.
Yeah.
If I was a boss, I wouldn't hire Vidura because he was like, he's not doing anything. He's just standing there looking at nothing. Like, you're fired. Get out of here. And he'd still be like standing there.
Yeah.
You're fired. But the mother calf is actually, she's working in the world, and like
Okay, so the
we are.
calf-
We have to do
yeah.
work in the world.
Well, Prabhupada
Like
gave
Mara's
a
in her
great
kitchen
analogy for that.
cooking, thinking.
Prabhupada
is
showed an analogy for that, and he said we should be like a woman who has a paramour lover, right? So it's like, say there's a wife.
Paramour, no.
Yeah, like say she's like a housewife.
Who's got a lover?
Yeah, who's got a lover. And so it's said that like she even becomes more attentive to her duties because she doesn't want.
Like, oh, what can I get you? You want anything? I got my
Yes.
secret lover.
That's
But Krishna's the secret lover.
the
Krishna's her secret
That's
lover.
right. So he, in a sense, it's an analogy to say that like living in this world, we should be responsible. We should be hired by Raghunath, but just the point is, the woman, she's being more responsible with her household duties than ever because she's got the paramour lover, but the whole day she's thinking just of her
Right.
lover, right? So we can be in the material world and we can be very responsible citizens here. We can be responsible at our jobs. We can be responsible taking care of our families and socially responsible. But internally, we're always thinking about God. We're always thinking on that spiritual level. That's a good analogy, right?
There was it's something interesting because when we were younger, and we like moved into ashrams at a very young age, it was sort of like, I mean, in one sense, it was very responsible. We have this duty to our spiritual life, but it was almost like we were a little irresponsible too in some ways. Maybe not, I'm not going to speak for you. I'm going to speak for myself. But it was sort of like, I don't want to be responsible to the world.
Mhm.
And we sort of like bailed out on the material world. And in one sense, people could say you're a little irresponsible, just becoming a monk. Like, and I remember I was 22, and there was other people going to the ashram that they were like very focused on their spiritual life, but they were like college graduates getting their PhD, going to, they were in, and I would be like, what are you doing in the material world getting your PhD? Don't you understand we're going to die at any moment? And they were like, yes, but I also want a career. And I was like, you fool! You
could die right now.
You could die before you even get it. And so so I didn't get it because I'm an extremist and I get that. But now they're PhDs and I'm still the same loser I always was. But there is a responsibility. Bhakti doesn't mean you have to be completely irresponsible with the material world. It means you keep Krishna in your third eye there, and you just walk in this world. Now, of course, you can become that renunciate like I did, and then be a complete materialist. Say, yeah, and you can ping pong like a pendulum. Or you can say, yeah, Raghunath's crazy. That path is crazy. I'm more balanced. I will get that PhD. But you can get sucked into Maya. So neither path is necessarily correct. You just got to be careful because you get tested at every way. But of course, we try to be the point you're trying to make is we have some duties in the material world. We're very responsible with those duties. Bhakti is not an excuse to be irresponsible.
Yeah,
we have it's never, irresponsibility never goes good with Bhakti, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the point is, and I like your point that it takes all kinds, right? And people may practice in different ways. Some people may really kind of leave the world, and some people may be very much engaged with the world. I think in either case, the point is that it has to be genuine. It has to be real. It has to be sincere.
Yeah.
It has to be done with integrity. And in either case, both are there. Now, the vast majority of the people are going to practice effectively by being responsible in this world. But just like, who was it? Was it Mallory that you said, I'm not talking today?
I'm not talking. Yeah, that was a little irresponsible, wasn't it?
Well, I'm saying,
Like, what if there was a fire? She'd be like,
but my point is this: I don't know if we
irresponsible, Mallory.
I don't know if you mentioned that on the show. Or if that was probably mentioned before we got like live on the air, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think you mentioned that. But you're
Mallory,
saying
one of the ladies with us.
Yeah.
Did I say that today? I can't, before maybe. Yeah, Mallory made a commitment yesterday. I'm not going to speak to anybody because it's a Ekadasi. It's a holy day, and she refuses to speak. She's just going to chant all day. So you're saying she's irresponsible?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that what I'm saying is that for the vast majority of us, we're not going to live that super renounced life, but we can build moments of that renunciation into our life. So we can say, hey, for today, I'm going to have a little Mona Vrata. I'm just going to chant today, right? If I don't know, does Mallory have a family, kids, anything like that, job?
No, she's sort of a brahmacharini.
Okay, well then she can do it. But if she went to work and she's like a cashier, let's say, and then people are asking her questions and she wasn't no, I'm taking a Mona Vrata, that would be irresponsible. She's got a responsibility.
That's our Sanskrit goody glossary for the day.
Mona Vrata.
Mona Vrata, Mauna. Mona means it's this vow.
Silence.
This Vrata, Vrata,
Vrata
vow
is
of
the
silence.
Vow. Yeah, Mona is the silence, so it's a vow of silence. So that would be irresponsible if she had a job that required her to speak. It'd be irresponsible of her if she, in so many cases. But that doesn't mean that she can't kind of draw from that in her practice and say, hey, for today, I don't need to speak. I'm on a pilgrimage. I'm away from my daily responsibilities, and I can engage in that. So again, every day we can have a little bit of that, and then certain days of the month we can do a little bit of that, and certain months of the year we might engage more like that, and at certain years of our life, we can engage more like that.
I got a Krishna miracle for you right now, Kaustubha. You and me are wearing the same t-shirt.
Nice.
Look at that.
Mathematically, I have like a...
That's a Krishna. Well, you know how many t-shirts I have? Tens of thousands.
You don't, and that's
What
the
are
point.
what are the...
You don't. You have like a small number of shirts, and I have a small number of shirts. So on certain days, they're going to coincide. That's not a Krishna miracle. Now let's get back to the commentary. Okay?
Why can't that be a miracle? Why can't you see the magic in that? Okay, let's continue.
Because it cheapens the real miracles. That's why. Cheapens it.
It's all. I'm going to do a Mona Vrata.
Let's continue.
Watch out, sir.
When Uddhava,
when Uddhava was fully absorbed in the transcendental ecstasy of love of
when
God.
Uddhava wanted to speak to Vidura.
When Uddhava wanted to speak to Vidura, he came down from the abode of the Lord.
Dwarka.
When Uddhava wanted to speak to Vidura, he came down from the abode of the Lord, Dwarka. Should it be the Lord of Dwarka?
No.
Abode of the Lord.
When Uddhava wanted to speak to
Am I
Vidura,
reading that wrong?
you're reading it wrong. When Uddhava wanted to speak to Vidura, he came down from the abode of the Lord, Dwarka, to the material plane, of human beings.
Gotcha.
So in his mind, he was living in the spiritual realm, but then he
Gotcha.
kind of came back.
Gotcha. Even though a pure devotee is present on the mortal planet, he is here in relationship to the Lord for engagement in transcendental loving service and not for any other material cause. A living entity can live either on the material plane or in the transcendental abode of the Lord in accordance with his existential condition. The conditional changes of the living entity are explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as given by Srila Rupa Goswami.
In the
Srila Rupa
instructions given
Goswami
to
by
Srila
Lord
Rupa
Chaitanya.
Goswami. Yeah. In the instructions given to
Yes.
Srila Rupa Goswami by Lord Sri Chaitanya. So this is from the Madhya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the biography of Sri Chaitanya, where he gives instructions to Sanatana Goswami, he gives instructions to his brother Rupa Goswami, and these become part of the essential text of our lineage, of our sampradaya. This is a great metaphor here that you can read right now. Hit it.
The living entities, here it is. The living entities all over the universe are enjoying the effects of their respective fruitive results of their own work. That's like their karma, life after life. So we're all getting some karma and we're enjoying it. Oh, wow, look what happened to me. I got this, I got a raise, I got a new job, I got a boyfriend, I got a girlfriend. I'm going on a beautiful vacation. We're enjoying some fruit of our particular work for a lifetime, after a lifetime. Out of all of them, some may be influenced by the association of a pure devotee and thus get the chance to execute devotional service by attainment of a taste. This taste is the seed of bhakti or devotional service. And one who is fortunate enough to have received such a seed is advised to sow it into the core of the heart. By the way, I was saying that they get the result of their fruitive activity. That sounds like a positive thing. We also get a lot of negative things with our
Enjoying,
karma as
yeah.
well.
If it's saying enjoying, I was, even as you're saying that, I was wondering, and maybe America can look into this. Is it possible that the word enjoying can even be like just experiencing? Like if you look at it in some archaic kind of form? Because we think of enjoying as always pleasurable, but I'm wondering if it might be used in any other way. I might be
You're
wrong.
asking Mara that?
Yeah.
Like
The
Sanskrit,
second
or
definition of possess and benefit from.
Yeah.
That's the closest. And then also enjoy is take delight or pleasure in an activity or an occasion.
Okay. So in any case, he said they're enjoying it, but along with that, we can understand when you enjoy materially, you also suffer. That's kind of
Yeah, it's
implicit.
like you get your chart read, your astrological chart, and you're like, wow, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. And whether you believe in astrology or not, those are chapters of our life. Oh, in this chapter, I got evicted. In this chapter, I fell in love. And in this chapter, I had a child. In this right? And so we're going through that. And those are all the results of our previous activities.
Okay.
But they say, going into that, and we cultivate a practice where we start behaving in such a way that we get good at good habits, or we get good at bad habits, right? You can actually practice
good habits or good at bad habits.
Good at bad, right? We are in a practice right now. Everything that we do is a practice. And so, and that creates sort of cycles we go through. Like, I'm going to the gym again today. I'm going to the gym again today. I'm going to the gym again today. And then sometimes you're like, I want to neglect my body, or I want to neglect my study, or I want to neglect my spiritual life, or I want to neglect there's so many things we can neglect or we get good at. We're going to get good at business. So we create these little circles of ourselves and patterns and habits, and we start to create ourself from here. And then somehow, by some mercy, somebody comes into our life and gives us some bhakti. And that creates an access point out of this circle, out of this loop, or as the Buddhists and the Hindus call it, samsara, which is
Okay.
birth and death and birth and death and birth and death. And we see these cycles in our material life. It's sort of like I'm doing the same old thing, the same old thing. Sometimes the same old thing is positive. Sometimes the same old thing is negative. Sometimes they're addictive things that like wreck your life. And sometimes they're very positive things that are enhancing my business and my good fortune. But whatever it is, it's a cycle. And those cycles are bigger, like Fibonacci spirals. They're bigger and bigger. Sometimes they last throughout lifetimes. Lifetimes we're making these positive choices or negative choices spiraling down. But sometimes a pure devotee enters into our circle and they give us an access point out of those choices. And it gives us sort of a lifeline to a whole nother realm. And that's what a bona fide yoga system is. And here it's explained, Lord Chaitanya is explaining it right now.
Okay.
This is how we get out of that cycle of birth and death.
We just heard, how did it go? That they could become influenced by the association of a pure devotee unless they get the chance to execute bhakti by the attainment of taste. Just like when you're leading one of those kirtans, Raghunath, and someone's there in Kali Ashram, they're like, oh my God, this is great.
And it's by the influence of a pure devotee. If you think of it, pure devotees have come into our life and they've influenced us, and they make us behave a certain way.
Okay.
Where would you and me be without pure devotees come into our life?
It's like, say.
I just wander in the streets of New York,
Yeah.
maybe homeless at this point.
So
like
it says-
sleeping.
So you may get that taste. Now Sri Chaitanya gives the advice if you get that. What does he say? He says this taste is the seed of devotional service, and one who is fortunate enough to have received such a seed is advised to sow it in the core of their heart. As one cultivates a seed by pouring water to fructify it, the seed of devotional service sown in the heart of the devotee may be cultured by pouring water in the form of Hatsi. I mean, it's right in front of you. You could read it if you want to.
I was like this. I was like, let me just listen to the Kaustubha.
Okay.
Stop
Well,
reading
anyway,
it.
what is that water? By pouring water.
By hearing and chanting the holy name.
That's right. Yeah.
By pouring water in the form of hearing and chanting.
Right.
Pouring water in the form
The
of
holy
hearing
name
and
and the pastimes
this is
of
what.
the Lord. Okay.
So this is what we're trying to do here with the show.
That's right.
We
got a little creeper.
with the podcast. It's what we do on retreats. It's what we do on pilgrimages. You go to this point where you just. We were saying this yesterday because sometimes it can be overwhelming if you're new to it. But like on these retreats, we try not to have any downtime for Maya. And what happens is you don't realize, but you are getting like tons of hearing and chanting going on. You're imbibing tons of truth. You're hearing transcendental stories. You're in the midst of kirtan. And without realizing, you're getting a very, very sweet taste. And then all of a sudden it ends and you go back to life. And then you're juxtaposed against a regular life and a type of spiritual high that you went through. And in that sweetness, the other sweet things in the material world don't even seem as sweet. It's like if you've ever eaten a gulab jamun, one of those Indian sweets, they're so incredibly sweet. And then someone says, hey, have a little piece of whatever, some other sweet, have an apple or something. An apple is like not even sweet compared to a gulab jamun. So if you taste something incredibly sweet, everything else seems sort of like less sweet. So spiritual life is like that. You get such a higher taste that nothing, right? Nothing in the material world can ever match that taste again.
But the point that you just made that I think we really need to highlight here is that, like you said, what we're trying to do here in the morning with the wisdom of the sages is that you have to keep pouring. Like if you have a plant and you water it one day, that's not enough. You have to water them regularly. Some plants require that you water them daily. So that little creeper of bhakti in our heart, that little seed that's been sown, we've had some experience, some taste. This makes sense. This makes total sense. I'm feeling really great. Hearing this, being in this kirtan, associating with these people, I get this message. This is like, boom, I got some taste for this. Now you take that seed and you plant it in the heart, but it has to be watered every day, and it has to be watered by hearing and chanting. So, what you said made me think that my wife told me recently, because she's on, from last year's retreat that we're doing at this time in the Eco Village. Every year we have these WhatsApp groups that that everybody on the retreat joins, and they usually kind of
Yeah, and they're
last.
still writing to each other.
Well, that's my point. Is that like what my wife said was that most years they kind of peter off. People come home and there's a little bit of back and forth, and then they kind of fade away for the most part. But last year's one is still going super strong. It's like people are still like, Marilyn,
Last
it's
year's
a little
WhatsApp
too
group.
much. The thing's ringing like, right? But she said because of the podcast, because people are hearing every day, that creeper of devotion is like kind of strong in people, and they want that association. They don't want to let go of that association, right? It's
Sure.
interesting, isn't it?
Sure.
So it's that daily.
It's not only interesting, but it goes right back to chutes and ladders, man. It's the
Okay.
chutes and ladders. You do those things that keep you climbing higher and higher in our spiritual life. So on a regular basis, we hear, and on the regular basis, we protect ourselves from those chutes that make us go incredibly downhill. And that happens too. It just comes from offending and making those offenses that wreck our spiritual assets
That's right.
and
Now,
bankrupt us.
the state of heart of Uddhava, these 6 verses, they're showing how special Uddhava was. That even as a child, he was totally absorbed in thinking of Krishna. And so much so that like when his mother said, "Oh, hey, it's time to eat," he's like, "I'm too absorbed in my meditation on Krishna right now. I don't even want to eat," you know. And then we see it in his symptoms that when Vidur just mentions Krishna to him, for 48 minutes he's stunned, and then the sattvika-bhavas start to appear. He's crying tears, he's stunned, hair standing on end, like goosebumps, and so on. Now that
Do you think?
yeah.
Do you think this is these?
What?
Go. You go.
Well, I was going to say
I'm interrupting again.
that softness of heart that he's got, that's where our yoga is meant to take us, so that we feel these deep devotional sentiments. That's the goal, that we feel divine love for God and for every living being. Uddhava's there. He's got that very soft heart. And again, there's a verse that describes that when one enters that second to top stage. We just heard in this commentary about faith, about shraddha. You meet someone in association of someone special, you get some sense of taste, and then you have to cultivate that like a tender little plant, a little sprout. You have to carefully water it every day by hearing chanting. You have to avoid the offenses, like you were saying earlier, because those are like weeds, right? And you cultivate the growth of this. And the second to last stage, just before pure love of God, is called bhava. It's called like, it's when pure love is just beginning, And the verse for that I mentioned earlier, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryangshu Samyabhak Ruchibhis Chitta Mushrinya Krit Asau Bhava Uchate. This is called Bhava Uchate. When devotional service, when bhakti is situated on that transcendental form of pure goodness, it's like a ray of sunlight for love of Krishna. At such a time, devotional service is this bhakti, this devotional service, causes the heart to be softened by various tastes, and it is called bhava. Okay, so Uddhava has that, and beyond that, he's got prema. But we're all fortunate if we can just get that original seed, that original taste of faith, and then what do you do with that? And the way that this is all laid out. So I guess you could call it like scientifically, right? It's clear the stages that one goes through, these 9 different stages of bhakti, which are they're given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then they show up in the Nectar of Devotion, Adao Shraddha, Tata Sadhu, Sango, Ta Bhajana Kriya. It's all laid out there that maybe we
Why
don't have
don't you
a lot of
list
time.
them? Why don't you list them?
We don't have a lot of time, but it begins with faith, shraddha, right? That initial experience in association of bhakti yogis. This is it. Wow, this is special, And that faith. Then the next stage is sadhu sangha. I want to change who I associate with in life. I want to spend more time with the people that are cultivating this. In their association, my little sprout grows stronger. When I leave the association, I'm associating with others, it tends to get weaker, right? So sadhu sangha is the next stage.
massive point for where we're at right now. It's like I become who I hang out with on a regular basis. And there's people that sort of, when we get around them, they just bring out the best in us. There's people that when they're in my life, they fan my spark. They make me feel connected. They make me feel whole. I want those people in my life on a regular basis. They make me want to upgrade my life. They give me great joy. And there's people, when they come into my life, I just, we have people say to us, whenever you hang out with them, you act different. It's those people that sort of like bring us down. It's problematic. It's problematic if this life that we live in, if there is a goal to life, if the goal is evolution, we got to start to be very, very careful if we're just hanging out with people that, they make me laugh or something like that, but they make me laugh in a degraded way, or they give me happiness in a degraded way. There's degrading happiness, you know what I mean? And degrading fun and degrading company. And then there's upgrading company. And this is sort of what we're looking for. And this is the very bottom rungs on the ladder. And if you don't get up these rungs, you'll never get to these higher echelons of bhakti. And so we start to be very, very careful. That faith comes, and then that sadhu sangha. I want these people that are going to make me climb higher. And without that, and I think that's sort of where a lot of us fumble around, because we've got this. Well, what can you do, Kaustubha? It's like we're in a workplace sometimes where it's just surrounded. Yeah. Unless Mara is like the boss, she's the boss of her work, and she just, if anyone says anything problematic, she's like, "You're out of here." Fired. She just cuts it.
You're fired. Little Prajalpa, little.
She runs a tight ship there in that kitchen.
No, she did, though. It's true. It's a true story you're telling, right? Mara, she did the conversation was just on too low a level, especially cooking, right? Because that consciousness goes right into the food.
Those cooks, they get all. Those chefs, they're stirring stuff around, telling low-class stories. And then finally, Mara just said, "I've had enough of this. All your horrible talk is just going right into the food and affecting everybody during the entire catering business."
They were like, "What is this woman talking about?"
So she's like, "From now on, we keep the consciousness high."
That's what happened, though, Mara, right?
Yeah,
Your
something like
thoughts are
that.
going into the food.
She set him straight.
Something like that. From now on, she said, only chanting mantras while cooking.
That's right. And then she went in there with a
everything.
Genevieve Rise record, and she said, "We're listening to this from now on while you cook." We're elevating the whole thing here, right?
Yeah, we're not listening to your cocaine anymore. Anyway, thanks, everybody.
We'll do the 9. Let's tomorrow.
What
We'll
song
finish
is
up.
that? Who
That's
sings
"Cocaine"
that
by Eric Clapton. But we
Eric
can.
Clapton.
Let's do the whole. Let's do the 9 stages of bhakti tomorrow. We'll finish that up. We just got started.
Yeah, that's when we start. 9 stages of bhakti.
All right.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. 5 a.m. in the morning. Come on, make some noise, Colombians. Thanks, everybody. Hey, there's no Sweet Baby Krishna tonight, but it's going to start back up tomorrow for our Sweet Baby Krishna marathon.